And for once in a long time, this NFC West is truly anyone's game. I mean, we see the 49ers. They're going to have to battle a lot of adversity this year, Rich. A lot of roster change. You know, the LA Rams, pretty darn good. The Arizona Cardinals, do they rise from the depths? And then the Seattle Seahawks. I mean, a quarterback change. You know, obviously second year under the head coach. You got to see some of these guys live in camp. You went to San Fran. You went to Seattle. Richard, talk to me. What do you like in the NFC? Is it the 49ers division? Because I like to tell you something. Las Vegas, they're known for making odds. I don't know if you knew this or not, but they're known for making some odds, and they favor your San Francisco 49ers to take this division. Do you like that, or do you like the field, my man?
Mitchell, I feel good about the San Francisco 49ers always because they have Kyle Shanahan, because they have Brock Purdy, because they have Christian McCaffrey, because they have Trent Williams, Nicholas John Bosa, Fred Warner, Diamador Lenore. These are the reasons I feel comfortable. George Kittle, the list goes on. It seems like a who's who of the Pro Bowl, all pro team. But the reason I have pause, Mitchell, the reason I look at that 10.5 and I say, I can see it, but I need to squint a little bit to see it because of the injuries, because the injury bug has been so ravenous through the San Francisco 49ers locker room that it gives me pause and concern because the last few years it's been contagious. And so if you keep those guys that I mentioned healthy, I think 10.5, 11 wins sound manageable. Those are some of the best players in the National Football League. They make impacts week in and week out. They will be perfectly fine. They will find a way. Kyle Shanahan, Klint Kubiak, they'll figure it out. But it's fragile. It's very, 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 very fragile this year when you're top heavy like that. It's like when you see a circus act and you see the elephant at the top. And you're like, if one thing breaks, the elephant falls, Mitchell, and that's a heavy fall. So could they win the division, the 49ers? No question about it. They're talented enough. They have some of the best players in the National Football League. They have one of the best play callers, if not the best play caller in Kyle Shanahan, a great coach. Robert Saleh is back coaching that defense. They have a talented defense, young in the back end, outside of Diamador Lenore. But Upton Stout has looked really good. He looked incredibly feisty. He looks like he's going to fit right in if he's healthy. Renardo Green looked good last year. I think he'll take another step in year two. They like the safeties. They like the linebacker core. I think this is, again, another good, talented linebacker core. I think D. Winters will take the next step this year. It's the D tackle position that leaves me really, really concerned. You got the rookie C.J. West penciled in as the starter. You got Jordan Elliott, who doesn't have a ton of experience. You got Alfred Collins, who they took in the second round, who they're really high on, who, it's a hard position to play. So it's going to take some time, some experience for him. Mikael Williams, the draft pick, the first-round draft pick, if he's healthy, looks to be everything they thought he would be. But that defensive tackle position is the one that's really, really concerning. Because if you can't get that right, then you're going to be in for a long season. And you pick up Jordan Jefferson off waivers, and I think he'll factor into the mix. And I think Chris Kaserik will maximize these guys to the fullest. But you just never know. And if it's not like you can go do something else and make a big trade. You can, but it's costly, and they're the second highest dead money in the league. So it's not like you can make some crazy trade and really secure that spot during the season. So this is pretty much what you're going with. I think they really like Marquise Singh in the back end. I think he'll start. They've been praising him. It looks like he'll start. They were actively shopping Jair Brown, so I'm not sure how he'll factor into that or what that mix will look like. On the offensive side, they look really good, Mitchell. They look really good. As still, that offensive line was a question mark to begin the season. They didn't do a lot to make me feel more comfortable. Obviously feel good about Dominic Pooney, but he was a little banged up. You feel good about Trent Williams. But there's a lot of question marks, and a lot of guys that are on proven seasons. This is a proven year for them, and Kyle Shanahan has spoken glowingly about this offensive line, but it's to be seen. They're a great run blocking offensive line. And pass pro is where they struggle, and we'll see it first game of the season. You got the Seattle Seahawks, you got Leonard Williams, you got Jaron Reed, you got Byron Murphy, you got these pass rushers galore. You got DeMarcus Lawrence, you got pass rusher galore coming in to Boye Mafe. So they'll be challenged right out the gate. And we'll see how well they stand up against that offensive line because, again, you pay Brock Purdy $50+ million. When he's upright and he has time, he's one of the best. It's proven. He's got the highest EPA. He's efficient. He's accurate. He's all those things. Got great anticipation. But nobody's good if you're not standing upright. And so they got to keep him upright. Obviously, we mentioned all the other guys. They brought in Brian Robinson, the running back. I think that's a great 1-2 punch with Christian McCaffrey. If Isaac Guerrero gets healthy, I think this is going to be a great backfield, and they can feel really confident and excited about it. In all the ways they could use Christian McCaffrey as a receiver, maybe even 2 back sets with Brian Robinson. I think there's some exciting possibilities. Obviously, they're without Deebo Samuel now, so they have to replace that factor of their offense. Maybe they use Christian McCaffrey in that role while Brian Robinson is in the backfield, things like that. I think Kyle Shanahan will use his creativity. The receiving core, huge question mark.
No, you talk about question marks, and that's all I hear you saying is question marks. And that's the story of this team right now is the question marks. How will they be answered? Because we talked off air this week. You look at the embarrassment of riches this team has had over the last 5 years. When you were playing there, Richard, you had DeForest Buckner and Eric Armstead, clogging that middle. Now you're relying on these relative unknowns in the middle. What the 49ers have really benefited from over the years is they've had all these all-pro and Pro Bowl players, but it was these guys that came out of nowhere to fill in those gaps. The Dre Greenlaws, the Talanoa Fungas, Diamador Lenore being another one. Like, who is that guy going to be defensively is the main question mark for this team, because while they are favored by Vegas to win the NFC West, I don't know, man. My gut tells me no. I lean more towards the Rams. I lean more towards the Seattle Seahawks than I do the 49er faithful. And I'm sorry, I know our bulk of filers here and listeners are probably not going to like me for saying this, but I just do not see them winning this division without somebody big stepping up and filling those voids. We asked all last year, how is Brock Purdy, paying Brock Purdy, going to affect this roster? And now we see firsthand. You don't get the luxury of re-signing a Talanoa Funga. You lose a Dre Greenlaw. Like, now it's time for Kyle Shanahan to develop and John Lynch to pluck these draft picks and insert them into the roster to help level set this 49ers organization, because I think this is a tipping point for them right now, Rich. I know you're cautious and agreeing with me. I know you are, but there are a lot of question marks, and that's all I've heard from you right now.
It's definitely an inflection point. It's definitely a fork in the road that will define the Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch era. And I say that knowing that they've been to multiple Super Bowls. They've been to multiple NFC championship. This has been a successful tenure by every stretch of the imagination.
No question.
Still, you're judged by what you're doing now. And I think they put together as solid of a team as they can under the circumstances. I think they could have done more to address that offensive line. Hopefully what they did has bears fruit. But I think the receiving core, bringing in Marquez Valdez-Scantling, I think that's a positive move. I know his hands have been inconsistent. The speed is still there. He looked solid with the Seahawks. I thought he would make it. Obviously, Torrey Horton had an incredible training camp, an incredible preseason, and just beat him outright. He earned the spot. He has a bright future, incredible young man who is very versatile, dominant at times in training camp for the Seattle Seahawks. And so you understand what happened there. It's not like it was because the veteran just didn't play well. He just got beat out. That happens in the National Football League. These hungry rookies come in, and they got a point to prove, and that kid proved the point. He should have definitely went higher in the draft. He looks more like a first or second round draft pick. But I think he's a solid addition. I thought they brought Sky Moore in to help more with special teams, but also still a veteran receiver who's played on the Super Bowl teams. with the Kansas City Chiefs. Obviously, they were going to move on from him, the San Francisco 49ers. He had a big punt return for a touchdown in a preseason game versus the Seattle Seahawks. So there was some energy there, some hype there, and they capitalized on it. They didn't spend too much on it. They needed to solidify this receiving core. Again, the Juwan Jennings saga continues. They're saying he wants over $20 million a year. And it's starting to it's getting to that point where rubber has to hit the road. Either they're going to pay him. John Lynch has said he's not going to trade him. So you're not going to pay him. You're not going to trade him. Either he's going to go out there and play well, which would be great. He goes out there, plays well. I'm sure he'll get over $20 million a year. But if he doesn't step on that field, if he makes one of those moves where he sits out the game or continues to say his calf issue is an issue and they go on and play the Seattle Seahawks without Juwan Jennings, whoa.
Who do you even throw the ball to at that point? And this is, you got Ricky Pearsall in his second year, Rich, and he's expected to take a huge step forward. But without Juwan Jennings, that veteran presence, right? The guy who's overcome a lot of odds, 7th-round pick out of Tennessee. We didn't even see him during the first 2-3 years of his pro career because he was battling injuries, and now he is again battling the calf issue. Richard, you can speak a heck of a lot more than I can with calf issues. I know those bothered you towards the tail end of your career. How big of a worry point is this for the 49ers? Because like you just alluded to, without Juwan Jennings, who else is there? I mean, there's Ricky Pearsall and then a bunch of relative unknowns, a bunch of guys that they just brought in, and that's the main question mark with this 49ers team.
Yeah, it's a bunch of relatively unknowns, and you're going into the Kubiak Bowl versus the Seattle Seahawks. The two Kubiaks as offensive coordinators. We're going to get into that in a second. But who do you throw the ball to? I know who you throw the ball to. You throw it to George Kittle more, which you've neglected for the past couple of years, one of the best tight ends, if not the best tight end in football. You feed him more than you have. You've had so many mouths to feed with Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuels that you've neglected George Kittle. So you definitely feed him. He's a matchup nightmare for especially the way the Seattle Seahawks defense plays in a Mike McDonald scheme. Like the tight end is where you have to go with the ball. They do a great job on the receivers. They do a good job disguising coverages. The windows are going to be tight. The pressure is going to be there. But Christian McCaffrey in the pass game, like there's going to be ways that they can navigate this space. But it's just such a ridiculous. It would be such a bad and detrimental move for Juwan Jennings for what he actually wants in the long term. There's a huge opportunity here for Juwan Jennings to have the season that would get him $25 million a year if he goes out there and continues to just be himself. He's been incredible as a player, as a teammate, as a competitor. He goes out there and sets the tone. So going out there against a division rival when the season starts and earning your keep and going out there and showing how dominant you are, how great you are, why you deserve the money goes a lot further for you than sitting out and saying, hey, you guys didn't give me the money I wanted, so now my calf is going to linger on. That's a hard one to play when you haven't had the seasons to really support this argument. You've had one season where you almost had 1,000 yards, which is great. But can we do it again? When you try to make the point, when you haven't done it again, it's almost like you think it's a fluke. We all think it's a fluke, and you're like, hey, I don't want you to find out that it's just a fluke. I want you to pay me now before you find out. Like, no, don't play that game. You are who you think you are. You've been dominant. You can be dominant. You know you're dominant. Go out there and prove it one more time. $20 million. If they don't pay you, somebody else will. But if you wait and play this game, and then Brandon Ayuk comes back, now there's a $30 million receiver on the field who's going to get those targets. Now, all of a sudden, your opportunity to show what you can do has just evaporated. And so I don't want that for Juwan Jennings. I hope he goes out there and puts his best foot forward and continues to be the guy that he's been every time he stepped on the football field, which is a tone setter, a great teammate, a guy who rallies this, is the energy and really the attitude of this offense a lot of time. He, along obviously with George Kittle and Christian McCaffrey and the rest of those guys, but he sets an attitude and a nastiness that they need.
Let's talk a little bit about some of these other contenders in the division. Like we talked about, you went to Seattle Seahawks training camp. You got to see it firsthand. This team is getting slept on. I mean, let's just call a spade a spade. They're picked to finish fourth in the division. I don't see it, man. I really don't. Second-year coach, getting his feet wet. This team seems to have figured out their identity. They want to get back to playing sound defense. Richard, can this Seattle Seahawks team take that step and be true competitors in this division like they were 10 years ago when you were running that field?
Yes. Yes. If I hadn't gone to training camp and I was just outside looking in, no insider information, no knowledge of what's going on, I mean, I don't think 8.5. They won 10 games last year. I don't think they go that far backwards. But I don't see how you have the Cardinals at 9.5 and the Seahawks at 8.5. But I've been at practice. I watched them. I've been in the meetings. Make sure they look good. They look good. Klint Kubiak in this scheme. I don't even want to call it Kyle Shanahan, Sean McVay, LaFleur, O'Connell scheme, is doing work for this team. Last year, that's why they got rid of Ryan Grubb. No offense to him. No bad. It just doesn't work in the National Football League. You have to have an identity on offense. You have to be able to run the ball. You have to have an identity in the run game, in the pass game. You can't just say, hey, we're gonna just put together a run game, whatever, but we had a great pass game. You can't play like that in the National Football League and expect success. A lot of times, the pass game is predicated off the run game. Hey, if you can run the football, you get people to commit to the run. You can play action. You can really move people and have a great game. If you can't run the football in the National Football League and you can't run the football against too high, you don't have a chance. And I think people saw it, glimpses of it in the preseason. You saw Charbonnet, 13-yard run, first play of the preseason. I'm sure Seattle Seahawks fans were jumping for joy. This offensive line looks really good, and they have the right mindset. They have the right approach to the game, and they're getting great coaching. It's the way they're talking. This is coming from understanding what it takes to win, being around winning culture, being around championships, winning Super Bowl. When you get guys who are out there sacrificing because they don't want to let the guy next to them down, that's special. It's not every day. Just because people are in the National Football League doesn't mean they feel like that. Just because they're in the National Football League doesn't mean they take pride in their job and take pride in not letting the man next to them down. They could take pride in feeding their family, no question about it. They could take pride in saying, hey, I'm coming here. I'm going to do what I got to do to make sure my kids are good, no question about it. But when you sit there and say, hey, I don't want to let the guy next to me down, it's a different mindset. It's just shift. And so that's what I'm hearing from the offensive line. That's what you're hearing from Charles Cross. That's what you're hearing from Gray Zabel. You're hearing that from those guys, and then you see the play come together on the field. I think that's going to be a really strong component for them and really take them far. The scheme, Abe Lucas looks really good and healthy, moving people. I think that's going to open up this pass game, and that's what Sam Darnold needs. That's what Sam Darnold has run. That's what he ran in San Francisco behind Brock Purdy. That's what he ran for Kevin O'Connell in Minnesota. And that's why they brought him in here to run this same scheme. Cooper Kupp has experience in this scheme. I think it'll do wonders for JSN. Obviously, I think this scheme works for so many people. And I haven't even seen K9 in a ton. Obviously, he's been injured, but you've seen the lanes that are there. I mean, we've seen what he's done when he's getting hit in the backfield 3-4 yards and still coming out with 8-9 yard gains. So imagine if he gets a lane. If we're talking about split zone and he's seeing nothing but daylight and one cut, make one guy miss in your house call. Whoa, scary.
Well, you just brought up a name. I think this guy is going to break fantasy football wide open and win a lot of fantasy football fanatics some leagues this year. It's Kenneth Walker. And with that point being, is these young offensive linemen, the Charles Crosses, the Abe Lucases, and then you sprinkle in some of these rookies, Gray Zabel being one of them. These guys on the tackle positions are no longer rookies, Rich. They're veterans now, and they're going to be leaders. And we've heard so much. Kenneth Walker III, this could be his breakout moment, an opportunity to bring the Seattle Seahawks back to this beast mode style of running the ball between the trenches. When you couple him with Zach Charbonnet, a guy who can take a play, a 1-yard gain into a 15, 20-yard gain, you have those two guys in the backfield together. I love the Seattle Seahawks. There are questions, right? There are questions. They got rid of what was their main focal point at offense, DK Metcalf. Obviously, it's tough to see Tyler Lockett leave, a fan favorite and a great person in the community, but you add Cooper Kupp, and then you expect JSN, Jackson Smith-Njigba, another guy, could have a massive year. The biggest question mark here is how big, if at all, if an upgrade is Sam Darnold from Geno Smith? Because to me, it looks like they just made a lateral move. Maybe that's what they wanted. Maybe they just wanted to get a little bit younger at the position, go with the hot hand Sam Darnold, who benefited so much playing with Minnesota last year and playing with Justin Jefferson and one of the best wide receiving core in football last year. But you can't turn your head at the Seattle Seahawks offensive weapons. JSN's going to be a rising star. You got the veteran Cooper Kupp. I mean, that's why I like Seattle so much. There are, like the 49ers, a lot of question marks, but I like these question marks more in Seattle than I do in San Francisco, because I think they've got a lot younger building blocks here to help turn this team around. And when you ignite that mindset, like you talked about, you switch from just showing up and putting the pads on to now showing up, putting the pads on, and wanting to win games for the guys next to you. Seattle, to me, looks like a team that could surprise a lot of folks this year. I know you also like the LA Rams, and that's why I think this is going to be one of the most competitive divisions, start to finish, in football. The LA Rams are going absolutely nowhere from where they've been. They are going to be another dominant team ready to go. I know Matthew Stafford's been battling the injuries. He's dealing with it. He's getting older. But you add Devontae Adams. I mean, you want to talk about an upgrade to that offensive unit? The LA Rams are not just a division, the potential winner. To me, they're a Super Bowl contender this year. They're very young defensively. Jared Verse, they've transitioned so well off of Aaron Donald. They immediately add Jared Verse and the other defensive tackle, young, up-and-coming stars in LA. I know we talked about it, and I know you don't want to go there, but would you term the LA Rams as a favorite in this division?
It's tough. It's tough. It's close, but there's still question marks in their secondary. There are things that I got to see happen. I got to see things come together. Obviously, their defensive line is really strong. Their offensive line could potentially have some issues. Matthew Stafford, lower back, missed a lot of time in the preseason, could be fine. But if anything happens to Matthew Stafford, everything goes out the window. Everything. Not that Jimmy can't get it done and can't be proficient, can't be efficient and take this team to a Super Bowl, but I think the gap between Matt Stafford and Jimmy Garoppolo in terms of like how they change the complexity of the games is drastic. And not that Jimmy can't go out there and run the offense proficiently and hey, if they got a great run game and make it happen and get this team to 10, 11 wins and get them to the playoffs. But Matthew Stafford is a special talent. And if he's not playing and if he's injured, the dynamic changes. And he's got a back injury, which is, those things are temperamental, and he's older. His father time is undefeated. And so, but I want to get back to the Seattle Seahawks because I hadn't finished on them and their defense and everything. And because I sat here and said it was a lateral move between Geno and Sam Darnold. The thing that makes it different is Klint Kubiak. The thing that makes it a different move is this run game and how effective it has been in the preseason, in practice, and how effective it has been throughout the league. I think that is what makes this totally different. Now, if you gave Geno this same run game with this, then I think Geno would have the success he had, that Pro Bowl season he had in Pete last year. But, or was that the year before? Was that 23 or 20? Yeah, time is crazy. But I also think it benefits him to have all these people who are experienced in this offense come with him and be able to move in an offense that he had a ton of success in last year. He went to a Super Bowl with San Francisco as the backup to Brock Purdy. I think he has a lot of experience, and those things are going to help him. That run game is going to help him be able to manage and not have to deal with the pressure that he's dealt with before. And this offensive line, it'll take some of the pressure off of him that they've had to deal with, that they had to deal with last year. They have a lot of moving parts between the right guard and center. There's a lot of spots up for grabs. And a lot, three guys kind of battling for three spots. You don't know who's gonna go where between Alu and Jalen Sundell and Anthony Bradford, but between the center and right guard spot, but they'll figure that out. They got them all listed between center and right guard, so I don't know who's going to be the starter. But defensively, I think the Seattle Seahawks are going to surprise a lot of people. If they can stay healthy, DeMarcus Lawrence is a game record, and I don't think he got enough credit in Dallas. Everybody said, hey, when Micah Parsons isn't playing, this defense is different. But when DeMarcus Lawrence wasn't playing, things really fell apart. It falls apart for Micah Parsons. It falls apart for the rest of the defense. He's a great run defender, a great pass rusher, an impactful player. And in this defense, they're not going to be able to double him at all because you got to worry about Leonard Williams. You got to worry about Byron Murphy, Jaron Reed. You got to worry about Boye Mafe. You got so many guys that Derek Hall that are impact players that are really good pass rushers. And then in the secondary, you got Julian Love, the Pro Bowler. It's the reason they paid him. Every coach in this conference speaks highly of Julian Love. When Kyle Shanahan, I went there, he said, hey, make sure you tell Julian Love, bro, I did not know. Like, I'm watching Julian Love. Like, he is good. This is ridiculous how good he is. I'm like, yeah. That's why they got him starting. Kobe Bryant, another guy that's impactful. Spoon is having a great camp. I think he's going to have another great year. Rick Woolen, contract season for him, very motivated. Got to have a great year within this scheme. You see at the Ernest Jones, a full year in this system. Tyrese Knight, full year, full-time starters. I think they're going to pick up where they left off. And then Nick Amemwari, the wild card, the Swiss Army knife. They're going to use him everywhere in this scheme, and it's going to be really fun to watch. They got him in the depth chart. I look at the depth chart, I'm like, oh, they're not giving credit for where he is at. You could literally put him as the backup to every single position pretty much in his defense, and they're going to use him like Mike McDonald used Kyle Hamilton in Baltimore, where he might be at nickel, you might see him at linebacker, you might see him look like he's at D tackle, he might be outside at corner, he might be back deep at safety. You never know. And I think that speaks to the versatility that this defense is going to have in this scheme. It's going to be tough to deal with. You're going to see a lot of it on display in the first week. This got to be the first time two brothers have coordinated against each other in the National Football League. Somebody's going to have to check me on that. But Klint Kubiak versus Klint Kubiak, that's going to be really cool. That's going to be really cool. I'm sure their dad is going to be really proud of that. But I think the Rams can make noise, but Stafford's health is the big question mark. And if your quarterback's health is a big question mark, then everything's a question mark.
And the last team we haven't touched on is Arizona Cardinals. I mean, this is another team that expectations are higher this year than in years past. You got Marvin Harrison Jr. coming back, in year two. It looks like he's added a lot of muscle. We'll see if he's able to get involved more. This team made a lot of changes this offseason to try to compete in this division. I don't know if they're there just yet, but Vegas has got them over under 9.5 wins, which tells me they're right on the cusp of being a playoff team. Are the Arizona Cardinals contenders in this division as well, or do you put them bottom of the totem pole?
Right now,
Can we see Kyler Murray get back to where he was 2-3 years ago, where he was giving defenses a lot of problems run with his legs? We saw it. James Conner was a lot more involved at the goal line. But 2-3 years ago, you saw Kyler Murray taking over as soon as they got in the red zone. This is what it's going to take, in my opinion, for the Cardinals to be a true threat, is unleash Kyler Murray. Can he rise to the occasion now that he's been in this league? What is this, year 5 for Kyler?
Yeah, I don't know. He's a wild card, and you don't know what you're going to get. Is he going to be healthy? Coming into the draft, like he's small, he's diminutive, and you don't know what you're going to get from him. So you sit there and say, what is he going to do? What is he going to do this year? I don't know. Like, what is their offensive line going to be? I don't know. I know James Conner has had some success, but he's also, running backs, they eventually fall off a cliff. So is he going to fall off a cliff soon? I don't know. I think they have two big, good receivers and Michael Wilson, Stanford guy, and
there you go,
Marvin Harrison Jr. I think those two receivers, having two big receivers that he can just throw the ball up and, hey, ask him to make a play. Sure. I could see that having some success, but it's almost like seems like they figured Kyler Murray out a little bit. And so if you figured him out, then I don't know. What is he doing different? What has he done to grow? What has he done to evolve, to help, change the narrative around what he did last season? And so I think I'm in a wait and see mode with the Arizona Cardinals because of Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray he had a solid season last year. He was 21 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, but they didn't win. They didn't win. And so that at the end of the day, it matters. That matters. They were 8-9, and I think Josh Gannon did a good job. I think he did a great job with that defense. I think they got a lot of veterans on that defense. I liked Will Johnson in that draft. I thought he was one of the better corners in that draft. They got him in the second round. I like him. Obviously, Budda Baker is going to be a factor in his defense, but I don't know. I still see them as middle of the pack. 8-9. I don't see them as 9.5. I see them as 8-9 again. And at that point, they're going to have to make a decision on if Kyler Murray is the future or if they're drafting somebody for the future. Because if you keep going 8-9, eventually, Mitchell, you're setting yourself up for failure because you're in the middle of the pack. So it's not like you're drafting high enough to get a potential franchise-defining generational player, and you're not good enough to be like, hey, we're competing in the playoffs, we got a chance, and we know, hey, we're doing things the right way. I just don't know.
Wait and see. So who's it going to be before we leave this division? It sounds to me like you're a bit muddled. It's almost like a wait and see division, but that's not how we do things at the Richard Sherman Podcast. Who are you taking right now? I need a division winner, courtesy of Richard Sherman.
Division winner. And so this one's tough. I don't know how Matthew Stafford's back is going to be throughout the whole season, and that's going to keep the Rams at least second for me, or second or third. They're not going to win it right now for me. I think that if they make the playoffs and he's healthy at the end and they're in the playoffs, he's going to cause some noise and they're going to cause some problems. So I think it's between the Seattle Seahawks and the San Francisco 49ers. I think the first game will determine a lot.
Shocking.
It's crazy because they play the first game and then they play the last game. So that's I don't know how many times that's happened in the history of the game, but I don't remember that happening many times. But it's in Seattle. San Francisco's banged up. You got a lot of young new receivers. You got your guys though. You got your all pros. And so it's tough for me to bet against them in Seattle with everything going on and all the injuries and all the uncertainty and in the D tackle situation. I think Seattle wins the division in a tie record-wise with the San Francisco 49ers, but it's going to be a close tiebreaker. I think they both win 11 games, and they're tied for the division, but the edge goes to the Seattle Seahawks. That's what I
This is the fine line you walk, having played for both organizations, Rich.
Well, this is not even a fine line. This is really how I'm seeing it, because I think Seattle has enough to make the jump and to do that and win 11 games. I also think San Francisco is talented enough to win 11 games. Now, if they win 12 games, if San Francisco wins 13 games, nobody be that surprised. Now, if Seattle wins 13 games, people will be like, oh my God, we were so wrong. But I see the Seattle Seahawks a lot better than everybody else does. and we'll see if I know football in week 1 and how they do against San Francisco 49ers. But to say 8.5 wins is insanity for the team I've seen in the way they've been executing, the way they've been working. If they get 8 wins, Mitchell, I don't know nothing, and I need to stop this. If they're healthy and they get 8 wins, color me dumb.